Knowles on the News. Susan Knowles.
So has everyone been enjoying watching the RNC? It's brought us all together, hasn't it? That we are so unified now as a party. And of course, I'm being very sarcastic because it seems that we are still at odds with each other and just can't get beyond our differences, which is really sad to see. We need to come together as a party. And we also need to allow other people who wish to not participate if they don't want to. But we can't seem to be able to do that. I know that there was some speculation at the very beginning that Ted Cruz was behind this coup, if you will, of the RNC. It turned out, no, that's really not what happened. But you can't convince anybody that that's the truth. Nobody wants to hear that. In fact, I was on Twitter, and I was asking one of the Trump supporters, why are you so angry at Cruz over this? And she's like, well, because he did this, and he shouldn't be at the convention, and he shouldn't speak there. And I'm like, well, Donald Trump personally invited him to speak at the convention. And then the response was, well, she should just fire him then. And it went on, and what's so funny is this woman's profile said, she was a Christian and tolerant of people, I suppose. But when I just asked her again, why be mad at somebody who's not behind this? She's like, oh, well, only stupid people believe that he's not behind this, and I'm through with this. And I mean, it was bad. It was really bad. I know that Trump supporters, and this is not all Trump supporters, but some Trump supporters, let's say, are just really angry. And I'm not sure what you are angry about. And I guess the Never Trump people and the Cruz supporters are angry as well. But I guess I'm talking to the Trump supporters. And I suppose I just wanted more. I wanted more from the Trump supporters in that I wanted them to say, okay, we got what we wanted. We wanted Donald Trump as the presumptive nominee, and now he's the nominee. And so we're going to drop our anger and our rhetoric. We want to try to unify and bring people together. And this is our opportunity to put everything in the past, come together, and move forward. But that's not happening. It really isn't happening. And I think there's so much that we could do together that we're not doing. For example, I was, as everybody knows, and I've made no secret about it, I was a Cruz supporter because of the fact that he's a constitutionalist, and I am a big constitutionalist. Well, I'm not angry. I'm not angry that Cruz is not the presidential candidate. I'm not angry that certain things happened that I was not too happy about, and that we are where we are. I'm not angry about that. What good, what benefit comes out of me staying angry over something that I have no control over? And I know the Never Trump people are still fighting at the convention and trying to get lawyers together and all that. We need to, while I respect what they're doing in that they have the right to do it, I just feel that somehow we need to come together, not as a Trump supporter, a Cruz supporter, anybody else supporter, but as Americans, and look and see where we want this country to go and be a part of taking this country where we want it to go. But we're not going to be able to do that. I mean, don't we have enough going on with other factions that are trying to keep us separated that we don't need politics to keep us separated? And because Donald Trump is the presidential nominee, I think that it is up to the Trump supporters to kind of extend the olive branch and say, okay, let's all come together now. We're sorry for the rhetoric that we spewed. I'm sure you're sorry for the rhetoric that you spewed, you Cruz supporters. But let's bring it all together and let's try to unite the party. Again, I'm not saying there are some people who will never be Trump no matter what, and they have the right to be that. But I think if the Trump supporters were to say, can we come together as Americans and let's figure out what we need to do, whether that's you voting for Trump or not, perhaps you can help us in some other ways, or here's a bigger idea, let's help the country. And we haven't even thought about what are some of those things that we can do to work together, even though we may not be, on exactly the same page. And I think that's something that we really do need to start looking at, because it's important to the country. We will never always, all of us, agree. It's just not going to happen, and it's okay. But I think there are areas that we can work together. Perhaps it would be just saying to the people who weren't necessarily Trump supporters, how about let's take an issue that you strongly believe in and go out and help us with that issue. Help us move it forward. Maybe it's immigration, building a wall, whatever the case may be. There is some commonality that we can find with each other, whether we support the same candidate or not. And I think that's a way to get our country moving in the right direction. I mean, I think pretty much everyone on the conservative side, and even if you're libertarian, you don't want Hillary Clinton as the president. We all know that. And I think we need to quit saying to people who don't support Donald Trump that, if Donald Trump doesn't get elected president because of you, then, you voted for Hillary if you don't vote for Donald Trump, and it's all your fault. I mean, we have to quit doing that to people, because when you do that, you only drive a further wedge between you and what you're trying to accomplish. It really serves no purpose. And again, you may say, well, I don't care. I'm going to continue to be angry. You can do that. But you will only be defeating yourself when you do that, because your anger is not resolving the issues. The issue is, how do we not get Hillary elected? By being angry, you're not assisting in keeping her out of the White House. So while you may be blaming the Never Trump and the Cruz supporters, you have yourself to blame if you're so angry that you're turning potential people away that wouldn't support you. When you're turning those people away, that's on you. And I know what I'm saying is not going to be popular, but it is absolutely the truth if you stop and think about it for a minute. What's the old saying? You attract more flies by honey, or is it bees, or whatever? In other words, if you're kind, you're going to attract more people to your cause. And you may have to put aside your anger for a couple of moments to get your ultimate goal, which is getting Donald Trump elected president, and getting people to help you do that, and to also help you get other things passed that would be great for this country. But again, your anger is not going to work. Look at Black Lives Matter. Their people in the protests are some of the angriest people I've ever seen. How many of you want to stop and listen and be empathetic to what they have to say when they're spewing that much anger and hate? It's the same thing for anything you're talking about, whether it's trying to get people to support electing Donald Trump, or if it's trying to get somebody to support somebody running for dog catcher. I mean, you can't tick people off and be angry at them and then expect for them to turn around and be supportive. And I know that you're saying, well, I really don't care. They should be on board. It's for America. Whatever you're having to say, it doesn't change the way it really is. We have to deal with the reality of the situation that we have. So I think everyone, whomever, being a little kinder, being a little bit more understanding and empathetic is going to really help your cause more than it's going to hurt it by the way that it's being done right now with a lot of anger. So just, food for thought. Again, you may not care. It may not matter to you, but perhaps if you're going to look at the other people and say, well, this is all your fault, you're going to have to take some responsibility as well. Because we're not going to get anywhere if we just keep pointing fingers at each other and there's no resolution. It's just a fact. Again, it's reality. And I know that we've had a lot this week in regards to Melania's speech and how certain aspects of it were almost copied word for word from Michelle Obama's 2008 speech. First of all, I'd like to say I listened to that speech. She did a great job. I've never heard the woman speak. I mean, it was nice to see that she was a great speaker. I think she got her points across very well. I think she won a lot of people over as a human being. I don't know whether as a potential first lady, if it moved people, I don't know. But I think a lot of people who even don't support Trump may have listened to her. Maybe some didn't, but some listened to her and thought, she's doing a really good job. And I think that you have to hand it to her for that. And even, I know people hate Glenn Beck because he doesn't support Trump. A lot of people do. But he even came out in support of Melania and said that she did a great job on her speech. When it came to the remarks about whether or not she plagiarized certain things in the speech, he defended her. And he said that he felt that someone else, the writer of that who helped her, did that. And whether it was done on purpose or not, he didn't know. I tend to agree with that. I think she was set up. I really do. Now, a lot of people, especially the Trump supporters, came out and said, oh, what difference does it make? Well, it does make a difference. We have to, again, no matter what we're talking about, whether we're talking about politics, religion, or something else, we have to remember what the rules are, okay? Here's the rules. The rules are you don't plagiarize somebody else's work. If your child had a homework assignment and you had to look at the speech that your child wrote and compare it to make sure it wasn't plagiarized, if you put the two side by side, I mean, it's obvious that words and phrases and even like a paragraph was lifted out of a former speech in 2008. Now, so we have to call it what it is. That's plagiarizing. Now, here's the issue, though. Did somebody do this on purpose? When you have a writer, and these people are paid enormous amount of money. They are good. They have reputations, on and on and on. This doesn't happen. How many times have you heard of a writer who quote unquote made a mistake and wrote the same type of speech? It is rare, if ever, that happens. So I really don't feel that Melania plagiarized the speech. I think whoever the writer was did it to set her up to make her look bad, and not only to make her look bad, but to make Donald Trump look bad. Now, it's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe the writer was just a horrible, horrible writer. Maybe this is his first time writing. I don't know. I don't know if it's a him or a her. I have no idea. But I think, again, we have to call it what it is. It's plagiarizing. Whoever did it, that's what it's called. That's what it is. We can't make excuses of, oh, well, she's a mom and she feels just like Michelle, so why isn't she able to say, similar words? Well, these aren't similar words, really. It's plagiarizing. It is. But again, I think the writer did it, whether intentionally or not. I think you have to blame this one on the writer. And I think Donald Trump should come out and just say, because even Melania said, I had help with this, as little as possible, but, she had help with it, and I believe that she did. And Donald Trump should say, the writer has been fired. And it's a shame that someone would try to do that to make either my wife or myself look bad. But we're not going to have writers that do that in the future. We're going to get only the best and, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Send out a clear message that they're not going to tolerate this type of thing. But again, we can't have a knee-jerk reaction every time something like this happens. And it's going to happen again and again because, something's going to happen. I don't know if it's the same type of thing, but you know how it is when you get in this type of contest between a woman who has been promised the White House since Bill probably walked in the office. How long ago that was? Not long enough. She wants this badly. There's nothing else that she wants more. So I think the dirty tricks haven't even begun yet of what she's going to do. The Clintons they're experts at what they do. They really are. They've had this innate ability to just get what they want. And if they have to walk over people, if they have to, whatever the Clintons do, they're going to do it. And it wouldn't surprise me if this writer was somebody that was maybe recommended by somebody who knew the Clintons. You don't know. And I'm making that up. I have no clue. But again, take care of the problem, Donald. Just take care of the problem. And the people who are the Trump supporters, stop making excuses. It makes it look worse when you make excuses. Just say, yeah, looks like somebody plagiarized it. Looks like the writer did it. Looks like perhaps the writer set her up shamefully, and move on. But don't start with the excuses, because he doesn't need the excuses. Melania doesn't need the excuses. It just makes them look bad. It makes them look like they're in the wrong or they're hiding something. Enough damage has been done in that Melania is going to perhaps be looked at as somebody who can't be trusted. And I don't necessarily think it's going to hurt her on the conservative side. Those people who are already Trump supporters, I don't think it'll have any effect. It's going to have an effect on the Hillary Clinton people. Who cares? They're not going to vote for Donald Trump anyway. Who cares? Again, don't be on the defense. Nobody needs that. But we just need to call it what it is and move on. And I think there were other things that happened at the RNC this past week. I didn't watch everything. I really didn't. I don't. No matter who it is, I don't like that type of thing. When Reagan was president, I didn't sit and watch the whole convention. I think if you're there, you probably get more out of it. But if you're sitting and watching it, after a while, it's like, oh my gosh, how many more times can we talk about the same thing? But I think Sheriff Clark, who is wonderful, I think if Trump should get in, Clark should have a position in the cabinet somewhere. I really do. I just love what he did this past week on CNN with Don Lemon, who basically wanted him to come out, I guess, and say nice things about Black Lives Matter. I don't know. And then when Clark kind of turned it around on him, Don Lemon didn't know what to do. He finally had to, okay, let's go to commercial. He's not towing the line. I mean, he didn't say towing the line, but he should have, because that's what he meant. But Sheriff Clark is like, I predicted this 2 years ago, and Obama is to blame for this, and Black Lives Matter, and on and on and on. And he's right, because the racial strife has just been so stirred up intentionally, and these Black Lives Matter protesters that you see. Again, I've pointed this out before. If you look at the protesters, the majority of them, 90% at least, probably more, they're young college kids that have probably been paid by George Soros and whomever, whatever group, to go out and protest on the behalf of Black Lives Matter. They probably don't even know or care who Black Lives Matter really is. I don't even think Black Lives Matter know who they are, but these people who are protesting, they don't have a clue. All they know is that they're missing class that their parents are paying for, and they're out there protesting something, because that's what young people do. And you have to admit, young people have been protesting forever. Back in the 60s, the 70s, 80s, they always find something to protest about, no matter what. And you always have somebody that convinces young people of the way that it really is. Oh no, believe this. This is what's going on. And because they're young, impressionable minds, usually away from their parents' care and sometimes with their parents' blessings, they just follow along like lemmings. I mean, we are creating a society that just goes along to get along. That's why white privilege works so well, and white people fall into the whole lie about white privilege and believe that. Because they're just getting along. They're just going along to get along. Well, you can't just go along to get along in life. You have to understand reality. You have to understand the truth. And you have to work towards that. And I think I've said it before, if some of these parents who were not on board with what their children are doing out there, their college-age children, they should pull the plug on paying for their education. Because by continuing to pay, especially when they're not even going to class, not learning anything, and attending a liberal college, no doubt, you're just part of the problem yourself, parents. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And you have to set the example that this isn't acceptable, And especially, these people are wasting your money. If they're in college and you're paying for all of this, and they're not even attending classes, but they're out there, over the weekends, during the day, at night, all the time, 24/7, you're not getting your money's worth. I would say, first thing, take them out of the liberal college that you have them in and let them go to a junior college, maybe in a state that is really conservative, or just don't have them go to college at all if they're going to waste their education and their time and your money. But we have to realize quickly, and I think more and more people are realizing it, but I'm not sure about those on the left if they'll ever realize what's happening. We are all being played. We are all being used. Black Lives Matter is just a distraction. Other things that are happening are just distractions. What happened at the convention this past week is a distraction. There's so many things that are happening in the United States and around the world that we're not watching because we're too distracted with what's going on in this country. And I believe it is intentional that we are to stay distracted. It is intentional that we are to stay divided. If you can't see that, then I don't know what else to say to you. But I don't know. It's just amazing what we're going through. And we're continuing to allow it to happen. I think we should all be out in front of our police forces and in front of our mayor's offices across the nation, demanding that they arrest these Black Lives Matter protesters who are out in the street, who are breaking the law in every which way possible. Enough is enough. And again, I'm not blaming the police because they are given orders as to what they can do. I blame it on the city mayor's office or the city attorney's office, as we had in Baltimore, the state attorney, not the city, but the state attorney, who decides, what's going to happen based upon her whim. And as we've seen in her whim, those people who she brought up on criminal charges in the Freddie Gray case, so far every cop has been acquitted. And I guess you could say, well, that's just because, see there how bad it is against black people. No, we have a jury, and I'm sure there are black people on the jury. And what happens is that truth eventually wins out and prevails. And she, again, knee-jerk reaction, political action, part of the, we shall overcome that doesn't exist, but she made it that way. And somebody who is an elitist in her own town who went ahead and just brought charges when she knew darn well that charges shouldn't have been brought. And now that's being proven. All along when I looked at that case, I said there might be a civil case, civil damages, but that's it. There was never any criminal intent, never. And I don't think there was ever any criminal negligence that I saw. But again, I don't have all the facts, but just a cursory look at it, that's what I found. That was my assumptions. But I really didn't too much express that because, again, I'm not the people who are sitting there looking and poring over all the facts and have to make that determination. I didn't come out quickly and say the cops acted stupidly as our president did in 2009. I wanted to wait and hear all the facts. And as the facts are starting to come out, we can see that those of us who felt there were no criminal violations here were right. But getting back to the RNC, and I know you're just waiting to do that, you're going to see so many things coming up too with the DNC. For example, the other night, Sean Smith, he was one of the men that was killed in Benghazi. His mother got up and spoke at the RNC and basically came out and personally accused and held Hillary Clinton responsible for the death of her son. Oh my gosh, and what do we get immediately? Chris Matthews, oh, that's just gross. Gross? Totally against her being able to do that. Totally against her speaking out her own mind, her own feelings at the loss of her son, that Hillary Clinton was and is responsible for his death. No, we can't have that. We can only have people who get up and say how wonderful Hillary is. Of course, that never happens at an RNC, typically. But we can't allow a woman who is grieving for the death of her son to get up and speak her mind and say what she feels is the truth. No, we can't have that. But I found out today that next week at the DNC, guess who's been invited to speak at the DNC? Michael Brown's mother. So you think Michael Brown's mother is going to get up, Chris Matthews, and say any gross things? Oh, I think so. And again, Black Lives Matter was perpetrated upon a false narrative with hands up, don't shoot. All false. Michael Brown never was, asking with his hands in the air for the cop not to kill him and, all innocent and everything like that. It's unfortunate that he was killed. It was unfortunate that things happened the way they did, but the police officer was absolutely acquitted. Now, this mom, Mrs. Brown, did lose her son. She has a right to get up and speak if she's invited someplace, but you can guarantee she's going to most likely guarantee that she is going to blame the police for the death of her son. But what you can guarantee is that you'll have people like Chris Matthews just saying how wonderful, oh my gosh, her speech touched me so much, and this grieving woman, blah, blah, blah. And again, I'm sure she is grieving, and so is Sean Smith's mother. But they will be treated completely different because this is what we do. This is how this goes. What you're not allowed to do at the RNC, you're going to be allowed to do at the DNC because, as we all know, progressives have they're under a different set of rules, if you can call anything they do under rules, because I think they just do whatever they want. And they always get away with it. They can do whatever they choose to do, and it's okay. But a conservative can do the same thing, and it's going to be looked at, scrutinized, put down. Oh my gosh, how can they get away with that? But it doesn't go both ways. And we all know that. Nobody here is naive. We know that. So look forward to that happening. Because, and who knows, maybe the DNC this time they'll vote out God permanently like they did before after 3 times of voting, and then the vote gets lied about and, whatever. I'm sure that'll take place, and people who shouldn't be praised will be. You know how it goes. It's your typical DNC free for all. This time it'll just be worse because everybody will be in front of the cameras and just saying whatever they want to say. And here's something that I found interesting, kind of along the same lines. This is an article that came out from Dennis Michael Lynch. It's called "Hillary's Top VP Pick Broke the Law." Oh, surprise. Shocking right there. Anyway, Julian Castro, he's the former mayor of San Antonio, Texas, and he's now the HUD secretary. Apparently, he is at the top of Hillary Clinton's list for a potential running mate, according to different sources. He's also an open borders advocate. No surprise at all right there. But he's in hot water for violating a federal law when he touted Hillary Clinton's candidacy in a media interview earlier this year. And this is according to a federal watchdog report. It says the 7-page report by the U.S. Office of Special Counsel concluded that Castro violated the Hatch Act, which bars most executive branch officials from expressing their political views while on official business. According to the report, he crossed the line during an April 4 interview that mostly was about HUD's plan to increase internet access to children and other agency-related issues. Castro, though, responded to a question during the Yahoo News interview about Hillary's bid for the White House. He said, taking off my HUD hat for a second and speaking individually, which he can't do in a conference when he's acting as the HUD director. I guess he just doesn't know that, because, again, there are rules for you and me. But as he spoke, he went on to say basically that she was, the most experienced candidate, and he criticized Republicans. He in other words, what he did was he took the opportunity as a HUD secretary, knowing that people were there, knowing that people would be listening, to come out and mix his political views with his personal views. I'm sitting here going, what better candidate for VP than would she pick but over this guy? I mean, come on. If he has a federal violation, that fits right in with who Hillary is, right? I mean, how many violations is she being accused of? I mean, God, this guy probably just moved up a couple of notches in her VP selection list. And this is what we can expect to see if she becomes the president. She is going to be more protected than she is right now. And anybody that works for her will have that hedge of protection over them. And you and me will just be standing out there going, but what about us? What about? And they're like, what about you? Get on board. I don't know about you, but I don't think I'll be watching very much of the DNC. I just can't bring myself to see who her pick is. And maybe she'll be announcing that at the DNC. I just can't. I don't want to look at her. It's bad enough when I have to hear Obama. Sometimes I just have to turn it off. I can't listen to what he's saying anymore. It's so ridiculous. The sound of his voice drives me, up a tree. And with Hillary, hearing her voice, it's even worse. I mean, if you could believe that, her voice is worse. I hate to say this, the communist Mao uniforms that she's been wearing lately. Who told her that was a good thing to have? I don't know. Maybe speech writers and clothes designers should be talked to a lot more than they are. Somebody should go in there and just say, hey, you know what? You're not getting your money's worth here. Oh, help us all. It's going to be a long week with the DNC, and just hold on. Moving on to other news, things that you'll never hear about because, again, we're focused so intently on what's going on with the election. And there's not any particular order of importance, but this is from out of Ohio. The Erie County Health Department confirmed that there are 11 cases of what may be the norovirus. And it said this virus was contracted by this RNC logistical team, oh my gosh, from California. All the staffers are from California and are part of the state RNC logistical support team, a group tasked with planning for the California delegation. Now, officials say the team arrived in town on Thursday, and the health department believes that one or more people brought the virus with them. Great. Come to California. Come spend time in California. Take the norovirus home with you or wherever you're going to go. Authorities said fecal samples have been taken from the ill individuals and are being sent to Columbus for testing. The results should be known soon. And according to the LA Times, at least one staff member of the California GOP at the Republican convention contracted the norovirus, also known as the cruise ship virus. A state party warning was emailed to the delegation early Tuesday. Wow. So California, when you try to go and vote conservative, you get sick and you take a virus with you to the convention. Not a good idea. And they weren't even going there to vote Democrat, which is like most of the state, So, I feel bad for those people that they have that virus. Hopefully they will be well and they can all proceed with what they're doing. Of course, they're missing the convention. And I don't know if you heard about this one this week. There was a 17-year-old Afghan asylum seeker who got on board a train, German train, that left at least 5 people injured when he apparently attacked these people with an axe and a knife after yelling, of course, Allahu Akbar. So I guess that's another workplace violence attack on the train, right, Mr. President? And he basically, I guess, told his father to pray that he gets as many people as he possibly can, that type of thing. And he was shot and killed by a special police unit, which happened to be nearby, thankfully. And yet, not that much mentioned about it in the news. Certainly you're not going to hear the president come out. The only thing he can do is immediately come out when something happens, like a mass shooting in a foreign country. He's always there to say, oh, yeah, that's absolutely terrorism. This time, because I guess a gun wasn't involved, there's no presidential address on the agenda, for him to come out and say, oh, wow, this absolutely was terrorism. And it was a 17-year-old, so we can't talk about 17-year-olds committing crimes, I guess. We have to not even speak about this one, so we'll let this one go. We're going to see more and more of these here in the United States, and we all know that it's coming, and we all know that we're going to be told that, oh, you know what, these people are lone wolves, and they have absolutely nothing to do with Islam or ISIS or anything else. And, one of the things that I was thinking about in the shootings that have occurred recently in Dallas and the one in Baton Rouge, there's something going on, and I don't know what this is or why, but I just feel that there's something that we're not being told, or perhaps maybe it is a coincidence. But the last 2 shooters have been veterans, which is odd to me, because typically you don't see veterans doing this kind of action on, especially police officers. And there was no reason to believe that these people had a mental illness or that they were suffering from anything that would cause them to do that, especially the last guy. He had a video. He seemed to be, what I saw in the brief amount that I saw, that he's speaking rationally, for the most part. And wasn't afflicted with anything. Of course, I didn't diagnose him, but I'm just saying, looking at that, he seemed to be speaking intelligently and putting sentences together. I'll give him that much. And so it's hard for me that veterans would come out, and especially, like I said, come out against the police officers, because a lot of military, as you know, come back and become police officers themselves because it's such a similar job. And I don't care what it is that you hate, you typically aren't going to take it out on other people. I mean, I know a vast array of veterans who are great law-abiding citizens that would never even consider doing anything like that, and then yet we have 2 back to back. Now, is that because one guy saw the other veteran do it and decided he was going to do it? I don't know. Copycat sometimes everywhere. But I just hope that the military, and the veterans especially, it would be great if they chose to do so, that they would come out openly in support of the military. And quite frankly, I've talked to some veterans who say they've gone out and they've protected police officers and showed them already that they respect them and want to protect them. I was talking to someone this morning who's a veteran, and he said that he was protecting a cop's back, protecting his six, as the veterans say, when the cop was getting gas. And I think that's absolutely wonderful thing for him to do. And I think more of us should do it, not just veterans, but I think all of us should do that. I really do. And not that we're required to do that, but I think we need to have each other's backs. Because as this gets worse, we need to be able to protect each other. And we need to know who the good guys are. And contrary to what the progressive agenda would have you believe at the moment, police officers are not the problem. It's lawlessness and people with an agenda that are actually the problems that we need to look at. And all of us are going to have to start standing up and speaking out. As our rights are taken away, it's about the only thing that you have left so far. And eventually, your First Amendment right, your freedom of speech, probably going to be taken away too. As things deteriorate, if we don't stand up and do something, that's what's going to happen. And I hope that all of us would give more support than we do already to police. And by that I mean, I've been thinking a lot about this, but I don't know if anyone would join in with me or maybe I should just go and do it myself. But remember, I don't know, this was last year, I guess, when we were asked to go to pray with the police officers and go to the police station and pray. I think we should do that. I think there ought to be teams of people that go and do that every day. If I could get people together that would do that and start that across this nation, I would love to do that. And maybe it's something, instead of going there, what we could do to all of us, maybe we could do Facebook Live and just say prayers for police officers. I don't know. We need to do something more, I think, than what we're doing. Or at least I feel that I do need to do something more than I'm doing. Because the agenda now is just to totally divide us all, totally make us all look bad, make us all look like we're racist, make us look like we're all crazy extremists. And I don't know how many times that people are willing to fall into the same trap and believing the lies. I know, as I've always said, and you know this to be true, for the most part, people in this country are great people. They don't want to do anyone harm. There are people that are sometimes persuaded into doing harm because they, for one reason or the other, are more like followers and maybe have something, a mental illness or something like that would cause them to fall prey to certain things. I think we need to kind of be mindful of those people and watch out for things. I know we're always told, if you see something, say something. Well, sometimes that doesn't always work, and I know that because sometimes you're accused of being a racist or whatever if you call and make a report. I know that's happened to people that I've known. I had made a call one time myself and was told, well, ma'am, he has a right to be in your community. This was, I've told you this story before. This was of a black man who was driving through my community. I'd never seen before, driving very slowly. At first, I didn't know if he was black. I have to say, I saw the car. Maybe I was discriminating against the car. Maybe that was it. It was the color of the car. But as he drove through, the car, that, again, I couldn't see who the driver was at the point. There was no passenger. Was going very slowly through the neighborhood, taking pictures of little girls who were by themselves. And that's what it appeared to be. Now, I think as it turned out to be, he was just taking pictures because he was interested in, buying a house, or somebody else was. But again, I didn't know who this man was. I saw little girls. Kids have been taken from their front yards in California and elsewhere and killed. I didn't want them to be another victim. And they were very young children. Why they were out there by themselves without adults, I have no idea. I knew I was the only adult standing around watching this, and I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. And I wasn't about to leave it. So again, when I called and I was asked to describe the person, I just said it looks like a black male, certain age. I think maybe I said 30 something. I don't even know. And it was, well, ma'am, he has a right to be in the neighborhood. Oh, come on. I mean, at that point, I was like, really, should I ever make another phone call to these people? And so I think people are very reluctant to call when they see something, because they know, just like what happened to me and other people, that they're going to be given a third degree on what they're doing, what they're saying. I still think you should make that call and take the risk, because I think there are going to be more calls that have to be made. And of course, I mean, we have to be reasonable. We can't call and turn in our neighbors on everything that they do or whatever. I mean, I think that would be just as much of a problem. But the people in Baton Rouge did the right thing when they saw a man dressed in black with a black mask carrying some sort of a rifle. Yeah, that's the call that you want to make. Something that looks to the everyday reasonable person that there is something wrong that needs to be checked out. And what gets me, too, about this shooter in Baton Rouge, and I'm sure it was because he had to, because this person was coming after him, but he shot and killed a black officer when he was one of those people who, talked about how Black Lives Matter and cops were all bad. But maybe because this guy was a black cop, it didn't matter that he was black. But I think more it was that this guy was just somebody that showed up. The police officer happened to show up, and he just happened to be black. And so the shooter thought, well, I've got to kill him because he's going to kill me or if I don't shoot him. But either way, craziness out there in this world lately. We need more. Everybody knows what the answer is, okay? Everybody knows what the answer is, and they know what they need to do. I recently wrote an article in the contributor section on the Blaze, and it says 2 men in Baton Rouge hold the key to healing a nation. And the two people were the slain officer, Montrell Jackson, and the Baton Rouge sheriff who came out and spoke. Those are the people that understand what's going on. Those are the people that understand what needs to be done. And one of the police officers, the one who had gotten shot prophetically on July 8th, he wrote on Facebook. And one of the things he said is, please don't let hate infect your heart. Because every time that happens, we lose. And the sheriff said, to me, this is not so much about gun control as it is about what's in men's heart. And until we come together as a nation, as a people, to heal as a people, if we don't do that, and this madness continues, we will surely perish as a people. And he then concluded by asking everybody to pray and support the families and the city. He gets it. The slain officer got it. It's hate. All it is that's causing the issues, hate. Whether that's hate against America, if you're a progressive, you hate America, which they would say, no, I don't. I love America. That's why I'm doing that. You hate America. Anyway, it's hate. Black Lives Matter, when they come out against police officers and say things with the protesters, death to the cops and shoot the pigs, whatever they say. Hate. When people come out in racist remarks against one race or the other, hate. Let's not kid ourselves. It's hate, pure and simple. And the only way to get rid of hate is through reconciliation. And by that I mean working through your hate, looking at yourself, figuring out why that you hate so much, that you want to do harm to other people, why you hate so much, that you want to talk down to other people. What's causing that? Then work through that and release the anger and the hate in the correct way. That's what you do. But continuing to have the hate and continuing to spew it onto other people is not going to resolve anything. But also through reconciliation, it's not sitting and saying, oh, yes, I'm responsible for all the world's problems, or because I'm white and I have a white privilege, I owe you something. No, that's not what reconciliation is. In everything that I talk about, the underlying thing there is you've got to be truthful and it has to be realistic. It's not realistic to apologize for something that you did not do. You can have empathy for someone, and you can say, I'm sorry that that happened to you, but you don't have to accept responsibility for something that happened to either an entire race, something that happened 200 years ago, 5 weeks ago, whatever. If you didn't do it, you're not responsible for it. And all of those people out there with your guilt, you need to get over yourself. You need to find out why you feel so guilty all the time that you would take on the responsibility of an entire country or entire race or whatever your case may be. Reconciliation is just getting to a point where you are at peace with yourself, at peace with other people, and at peace with God. Meaning that you have worked through the issues. You have understood what's perhaps going on with the other side, and that you feel no resentment or hate or anger towards them. But that if you choose, you can hear what they have to say, and then if you choose, again, you can have empathy for maybe their pain, in their perceived pain. It may not be accurate, it may not be truthful, but it is still their perceived pain, and for them it's real. And you get to a point where you say, God, I have no hate in my heart. And you reconcile that with God. But as long as you have hate in your heart for other people, we all know that's not what God would have you do. So we somehow need to quit fooling ourselves here. And when I say ourselves, I don't mean you and me and the people listening to this program. I mean those who just want to look to somebody else to blame, who are out there on the streets protesting, hating people, who are out there dressed in their all-black masks with their rifles to kill people because they're so filled with hate for whatever reason that they feel that they must hurt other people. You know, if you weren't hurting yourself, you wouldn't be wanting to hurt other people. And again, I know there are exceptions, people with mental illness. I understand that. I'm talking about other people. And I'm not saying that other people who are filled with hate go out and kill people. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying that we have a real problem here. Until we are willing to look at and understand that hate is the issue and think about how to get through that hate without wanting to hurt other people because of it, we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it as a nation. We're not going to make it because the progressives understand that we as human beings, this is, that we sometimes have difficulty accepting responsibility for our actions, that we always look to blame other people. And in so doing, again, we lash out at other people. We don't try to find healing ourselves, but we want to take it out on other people. The progressives understand that. Again, it's human nature for us to do that. It takes work to control your behavior. It takes work to control your anger. And they're betting on the fact that they can rev you up, pump you up to take that anger and go out and do harm in whatever way, verbally, physically, whatever way, to somebody else. That's how they operate. They've operated this way forever. And you have these various quote-unquote activist groups that want to continue to stir up trouble. And they're going to continue until we say, enough's enough. I mean, I love seeing these videos where two people, group of people, whatever, of different races are getting together. They're praying for each other. They're helping each other across the street. They're deciding, instead of having a Black Lives Matter protest, that perhaps they should just get together and have a barbecue, get to know each other. Now, I'm sure that just infuriates those who would like to keep us apart. I mean, I can't imagine they're thinking, oh, my little plan is working, my scheme is working, people are starting to hate each other, this is great. This is going to cause riots in the street. This is going to cause even more protests. We're going to, do all the kinds of destruction everywhere that we can. This is great. And then they turn on the TV, or they look at a video posted on Facebook or YouTube, and they see these people coming together as a nation. One nation under God. Remember that? Yeah. Well, they would have you forget that. And these people are standing around as human beings with the love of God in their hearts, that they can come together and pray for each other. They can come together and talk to each other. Nobody yelling, nobody screaming, nobody calling each other names, but just coming together and being people. So we need to do more of that. And we need to post those things that happen. Because if you're going to get rid of hate, you have to overpower hate with the stronger emotion of love. That's what kills hate. That's what gets rid of hate. Hate hates the love. And so love just is something that everybody has in their hearts that they can share with other people. That we can start being the light instead of the darkness and swimming around in the hate and the darkness. If we just made it a point each week to once or twice a week post pictures that way in social media, oh my God, I really do think that would make a difference. I know it's a small difference, but it would make a difference. I have seen lately, and I'm following them on Facebook, some of the police officers. There's one black police officer from Dallas. Love the guy. He's a young guy. I think his mom might be a pastor. He has a heart of gold. He's really, by coming on Facebook Live, showing people who police officers really are, that they're not all bad. He's showing people love. He's being himself. He's interacting with family members. He's interacting with the public. It's great. I love to watch it because I'm so sick and tired of every time just seeing all the horrible stuff. When I know that there are great people out there. When I know there are more people like this officer than there are people who aren't like this officer. And unfortunately, I think we need to start showing that to people, being really open about it, because people have forgotten about it and they want to go over and believe the dark side. I'm not willing to go over to the dark side. I'm not willing to believe the dark side. I know that love is stronger. I know that God wins in the end. And I really want to be a part of that. Be a part of the positive and not the negative. And it doesn't take much to do that. It wouldn't take us much to do that. Again, let's say you go to a party or you're walking on the street, whatever. Take a picture of yourself. Take a video of yourself. Whatever you want to do. Post it in social media and say, look, here are people loving each other. Here are people getting along with each other. Don't allow the narrative that we hear every day, the false narrative, to overshadow the truth. The truth is going to win. And it's a matter of all of us making that possible. We all have the ability to do that. But we also have to, while we're doing that, get rid of the anger and the hate in our own hearts so that we can go out there clearly with one goal in mind, and that is to show people who God is, to spread the light and the love, and not allow the evil that is permeating our nation in so many aspects right now. And there's a laundry list. I know you know the laundry list. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And it is evil. I don't care what you call it. It is evil in a lot of respects. And we just need to start being more proactive in doing what we can do in whatever way that we can do it. And I think one way is just by showing people, don't believe the lies. Here's the truth. And that's our part. That's what we can do. If we can do more, if we can do other things, we can do bigger things, whatever. Go for it. Whatever you come up with and whatever you think that you can do, go for it. Do it. Don't hold back. This is not time to hold back on anything. Our country is in trouble right now, and our people are hurting, and we need to come together as one, in one unity, to show the world this is who we really are, and that we are loving people. I thank you so much for being here today. God bless you. Take care of yourself. I'll see you again next week.